Hello, we are here to review The Real Housewives of New York, season 14, episode 5. And this show is just getting better and better. Honestly, I I just don't know. Like Chef's Kiss. It's just really going really kind of great. And I feel like we kind of just like go all over the place. Like we see so many different things and different dynamics just out the gate. So let's just get started. So we start off, we have Jessel and Bryn talking about Erin's party. They like went shopping, I guess for things to wear, some cute store. And they're having a conversation. It's nice to see Jessel and Bryn interacting because it's just weird to, which is fine, perfectly fine. But it's just weird to really pick up on what exactly are the dynamics in the group. But I kind of like that they are just kind of like shifting and doing like whatever they're doing, because at first it kind of felt like Bryn was like shady towards Jessel on behalf of Erin, but now you see her kind of hanging with Jessel and being shady against Erin. So it's like it's a lot, but I'm having a really good time. But it's fun seeing them together. It really seems like they have a lot in common in terms of the shade of it all. Like they seem like they know how to really like banter and go back and forth and kiki. So I'm having fun with that. And the big thing is that, they're talking about Erin's invite and the fact that there are a ton of like promoters for the party, which if it's lost upon anybody, I guess it's kind of like I struggle to say this because it's going to have a negative connotation, but I don't mean it negatively. But just for the sake of explaining, it's kind of like an elitist type of argument. Like, I can't say this is what they meant, but that's how it felt. Because they didn't say it, but it felt implied. But like saying like, oh, somebody has a lot of promoters for their party means basically that the party's paid for. Like they didn't pay for it, like it's paid for. So it's like, that type of vibe. So I guess that was the shade. And I'm not mad at that, you know what I'm saying? It is interesting though, because it does seem like you hear Erin talk a lot about, or talk often about, how much money is being spent on things, and she seems like she's somebody that's pretty financially conscious and doesn't necessarily like splurge or do the glitz and the glam of all the things. And I don't think there's anything fine with that. She still seems like she lives nicely and has a cute coin. So, if that's her vibe, that's her vibe. I don't have any experience going to somebody's 10-year anniversary party and it's sponsored by, Tom, Dick, and Harry. I don't know anything about any of that. I don't know if it will rub me any type of way, but it is interesting to know that, she knows people that are willing to sponsor her party. It's more interesting, though, that the party was sponsored and there was no food. But, we'll get into that later. There's also a thing that they have a conversation, and Jessel highlights, that she talked with Erin and she gave her an apology, which we talked about last episode. I was super happy that they, got that out the way and decided they wanted to move forward. For whatever weird reason, Bryn felt like she still feels like it's such a big deal that they were called cackling hags, and she thinks that Jessel should apologize specifically for that. At first, I thought that Jessel was going to fall into it, and I was like, whatever, if she's gonna do it, fine, get it out the way, but I didn't think it was necessary. And then I like that Jessel verbally said she didn't think that was necessary. Like, she wasn't gonna rehash it and go back down memory lane. She gave an apology. She felt like it covered everything, which it did, and she wanted to move forward. And I feel like Erin feels the same way, so I'm glad we didn't listen to Bryn on that. I don't know why she's so tickled by this whole cackling hag thing, but she needs to move on. Jessel kind of turned it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jessel's like, well, actually, like, even in retrospect, Erin's kind of the common denominator here. Like, she's beefed with multiple women in this group already. And Bryn seemingly seems to, agree.
Let me just be clear. She's had a problem with you. She's had a problem with Sai. Jenna left her house. She has a problem with me. Like,
yeah.
I don't think it's us.
There's a common denominator.
There's definitely a common denominator.
So, I mean, and I agree as well. I've already been speaking to this. Erin's a nice girl, okay? But she operates in a particular way, and it seems to be very conflicting. So, I would have to agree with the common denominator argument, and I'm glad that Jessel was able to pull that out of her bag. We move on. And I'm really enjoying seeing Jessel and her husband have these conversations about the school. I think it's just a fun thing to see, right? Like, you see the dynamic of her and her husband. Obviously, we just met these people, so we have to see, and we have to get to meet her husband and what his perspective is. I definitely think there are some, I won't say it's a malicious thing, but I think there are definitely some critics online who probably don't necessarily care for Jessel as much, or maybe Jessel kind of rubs in the wrong way, and they paint it as like, especially knowing the backstory that her and her husband haven't been intimate in a long time, they're kind of painting this narrative where it's like, oh, well, they're not a good couple, like they don't match kind of type of thing, and I don't see that at all. And I hate that there's this small-minded view of it that may turn out to be, anything's possible, you know what I'm saying? So that may turn out to be something, but I don't think that's what we're seeing, is what I'm saying. And I would hope that people are not having that acute level of analysis when they're watching this. But they seem to me to be very good friends who just have different perspectives, and I think that's all we're supposed to be seeing. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, as stated before, Jessel wants her kids to go somewhere, based on status. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if I had the funds, I probably would want my kids to be rubbing elbows with the status kids as well. Like, I want my kids to go to school with Blue Ivy as well. I don't care how much it costs. $62,000 a year is insane. I was wondering if that was per child, or if you get a little break off because they're twins, or they're going to school simultaneously, or whatever. But I can agree with her on that, but I can also agree with her husband. And he's like, he's looking at the money. Like, that's kind of wild, and it is. He ain't lying. So, I just enjoyed watching that, and it was just really fun. I like that we got the application part as well, where they're just kind of like joking and making fun of themselves and not really knowing. Like, they're really just kind of regular people. They have a coin, but they're just kind of regular people, and they seem like they're friends, and they're goofy and they joke. So I'm glad that we got that part of the conversation too, where it just didn't seem like it was just conflict, and it wasn't leaning itself or lending itself to that weird analysis that they're not a good match. So I enjoyed that. I always do. We get to Sai's house, and this is now the second time that Sai is kind of like airing grievances about Jessel to her husband, and almost immediately, for the second time, her husband is being just a really great voice of reason, and I'm just like in love with him. Like, he's literally just telling her, like, you have to consider, like, he's breaking it down for her as if he has his own YouTube channel. He's just like, she has new twins, like, she's adjusting, she's figuring things out, like, y'all are kind of doing too much when it comes to her. Like, he doesn't really see the issue. And I like that Sai is able to, like, sit and listen to him and understand where he's coming from. And they even have a discussion where, she acknowledges that she's not really the feelings type, and she can be hard on people. And he kind of jokes and keys like, yeah, I know. He's like, so I like that she has that level of accountability. I like that they have that dynamic in their relationship where they can talk. And she even jokes, and she's like, he's a good balance for her, but sometimes she wishes he would just agree. And I get that. I understand that. So I like that she has that sounding board there, but also somebody to hold her accountable and kind of level her out and let her know, like, you're doing too much. Like, there's really nothing wrong with Jessel. Also, because I'm Team Jessel. So, yeah. Finally, we're at ERIN's party. It looked like a really nice party, and the venue was gorgeous, the old bank. I wasn't seeing, I think it would have been more of a kiki if we had seen, like, all these things that were, like, making it blatantly obvious that this party had been sponsored, but there wasn't any of that. It just looked like a regular party. Again, there wasn't any food, I guess, besides the, like, pigs and blankets, like, Sai was telling us. But, it looked like a really pretty party. I like that it was black tie. I wish that we had gotten into the guests more, but it seemed like it was just a massive party and maybe just kind of hard to cover. There were even parts where I'm like, have the ladies even seen each other? Like, have they even spoken before the end where they're kind of all clumped together during the speeches? I'm like, are they even kikiing with each other? But it was just fun to watch. And honestly, at this point, it's just a thing where we're like watching Bryn and Jessel go around and cause havoc. And it was very entertaining. Like, I know that, we'll start from the beginning. Obviously, Bryn comes in. She lets us know that she's lit. I love the reference that she gave where she's like, she looks like the stepmom on The Parent Trap, because Yes, like that's one of my favorite movies, and she definitely did look like her. I wish I could remember her name. It was like Meredith or something like that. Speaking of Meredith, Meredith Marks was on this episode. It was fun to see her. But yeah, so she did look like her, honestly, with the fur and with the sunglasses. So it was fun that she was lit. Like, yeah, if you're gonna come to the event, be lit. And again, I haven't been to any like anniversary parties, but like I'm coming to have a good time. So period. So I enjoyed that. I thought it was entertaining, her kind of like flirting with Aaron's brother and like talking about she wanted to talk to Aaron's dad. Like, I didn't see any issue with those things. Obviously, there became a big thing where, like, she was talking to Aaron's husband and making a lot of like flirty jokes and things like that. Here's the thing, I can understand. So, as a viewer, I wasn't like outraged by it. I just wasn't. I know that Bryn has been getting a lot of flack about it, and I can understand her getting it. Like, fine. But I wasn't super outraged about it. I was more so looking at it from an entertainment standpoint. And as a viewer, I just felt like, oh, that's just Bryn. And I know that it's controversial to do that. Like, you should never just placate things and be like, oh, that's just so and so, so it's fine if they do that. I understand that. But I'm just saying, as a viewer and being entertained, I'm just like, that's just Bryn being Bryn. Now, I also had a PTSD moment where I'm looking at it and I'm like there was like a side to side moment where like they're kind of like joking back and forth. I think his name is Abe. Like Abe and Brand are kind of like joking back and forth and shooting it back and forth to each other. And it seemed super playful, but I'm also somebody, I'm very much so a principle person, and I'm very much so a opportunity person. Meaning, I don't like when it comes down to it, I don't give a damn about the intention argument or we're just cool argument or this is where we were argument. I don't give a damn about any of that. If that were my husband and me looking at it, my friend and my husband or my partner or whatever the hell, if they were having that type of conversation, it was flirty in nature, even if it's playful, whatever. Again, I don't give a damn about that. You're still creating an opportunity for there to be that type of inappropriate interaction, right? Like, even if it's not happening at that point, people are weird and we change all the time. So there can be a point in the future where Bryn's feeling weird and feeling saucy and she feels like, oh, well, Abe is okay with me like flirting and being playful with him, so I can do that a little bit more, and it may potentially go too far. Same thing with Abe, right? So you're really creating the space and the opportunity for that to occur, is what I'm saying, right? Like, think of it as like a metaverse portal. Like, it doesn't necessarily exist in this space and in this time, and it may not be your intention, but as you're sitting there doing it, it's kind of, this portal is kind of like rounding out and becoming bigger and bigger. And I've always said, like, when I've dated, I'm just like, I don't care what your intention is, but it's like, there's certain people that you just shouldn't interact with in a certain way because you just don't want to have to create that opportunity for it to potentially happen. That's it. Like, you just don't want to have the potential for something inappropriate to be happening. So that's my stance on it. Like, it shouldn't happen because it is that act itself. You may not think that it's inappropriate, but it could lead to something inappropriate, is what I'm saying. So that's my stance on it. It's always been my stance on it. But again, that's me thinking of it from like a if I were involved type of situation versus me being a viewer. And me being a viewer, I was just entertained. But I could definitely understand, like, and even Aaron, like if my name is Aaron and I'm married to Abe, I'm not okay with that, right? Like, I'm not gonna make a big deal about it because I watched it and I saw it on the show and I know exactly what's happening. She was there. She wasn't necessarily standing there as it was happening, so she probably didn't see it all and hear it all. But from a TV standpoint, it looked harmless. But again, I'm telling my man, let's not let that happen again. Okay? And I'm telling Brand, and I'm also telling everybody else, like, boundary. Like, now I'm setting a boundary with Brand because, I don't know what she might be capable of. So, boom. That's how I feel about it. And according to Brand, she was responding to some fans on social media. I guess she has apologized about it and acknowledged that it was inappropriate. So it's not something that we really need to keep on rehashing. But I guess we can see, what level of accountability she took and analyze that. But it seems as though she understands where the issue lies. I did like That, you know, just like I said earlier, you know, Jessel told Bryn that she and Aaron were moving forward, and I'm happy about that. But it's also, you know, you always need to hear from the other party, and Aaron can be a little bit more, Aaron. So it was nice to hear Aaron say, and she wasn't even prompted. She was saying it herself, like, you know, she's excited to move forward and have fun with Jessel. So I was excited to hear that. I'm like, okay, great. Erin can be a really nice girl. So, and I do think that. I'm not, you know, it's no all shade to Erin. She does annoy me, but, you know, she does seem like she could be a nice girl. And I'm excited to hear her say that. Like, not only that she wanted to move on, because that could be very passive, like, oh, I'm ready to move on, let's move forward. But she specifically said she wanted to have fun with Jessel. So I like that she said that, and I'm excited to see them have fun together. I don't know how she's going to feel, though, about, like, Bryn and Jessel running around and kind of being menaces at the party and being shady and stuff like that. But it was more so Bryn. Because even now, like, you know, Bryn's running around. She's calling the party boring. And, you know, she's acknowledging it in the moment, too. She's like, I don't know if I'll ever be invited anywhere else for them. Like, I'm flirting with people. I'm calling the party boring. I'm doing the most. I'm lit. So, you know, again, very entertaining. But if I were Erin, I would be very upset watching it. I don't know how she felt in the moment. Maybe we'll hear about it later in another episode, but even like watching the show, that would irritate me. Again, I don't know if it's like it has to be a big moment and big dramatic thing, but I would be irritated by it. I would be bothered by it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, but from a viewer standpoint, I don't know that I felt like it was boring. The only part where I was like, okay, now I can see why this is like ill is when like they highlighted that A, there was no food, and B, that the speeches were going on forever, right? So, and everybody said that, you know, that was unanimous, and ain't nobody trying to sit nowhere and listen to super long speeches, especially if they already bored and already hungry. And they're trying to get lit. Like, people are trying to get lit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when you go to any type of well, I won't say any type of function, but a function of this type of thing or whatever, especially we on TV, like, I'm trying to have some drinks, you know what I'm saying? And I wonder if typically when you go to events like this and like they're doing the important parts like speeches and ceremonies and stuff, they'll sometimes close the bar doing those, which sucks because it's just like, okay, if I'm bored over here, I can just go to the bar and hang out. So maybe the bar was closed at this point. I don't know. But I say all that to say I would have found some way to entertain myself because I can understand why they would have been bored. And, you know, we get this girl please type of moment where like Erin's sister comes up and she's trying to check them, and it's like,
hi, I'm Erin's sister.
Oh, hi.
Hi, so nice to meet you, but I just want to tell you it's a little rude. Can you like we're at her engagement, you guys are arguing. It's like
We're not arguing.
whatever. You guys are chatting, chit-chatting.
Are you going to go around and tell each one of the people too? Everybody is talking, but you're right, it's rude.
she had already lost me because again, I want to be diplomatic and say like, because I understand her being like, this is my sister, you guys are being disrespectful, because they were, and they did acknowledge that they were being disrespectful. However, she already came over A, kind of spicy, and B, she's already like, you guys are over here arguing. And it's like, nobody's even arguing, so you don't know what you're talking about. And then everybody in the room was talking, right? Which is a very childish response to give. So I do cringe that I'm saying it, but everybody in the room was talking. Again, I mean, I do understand that they were kind of more so towards the front is the way that it was described. And I guess that they were standing behind her sister and her mother, who comes up a little bit later. So I can understand that as well, but I just, the approach for me is what got me. Especially like her being spicy and her talking about you guys are over here arguing. It's like, girl, you don't even know what you're talking about. Get your facts straight. Come in, get out, leave me alone, and go do what you're doing. The girls don't really take her seriously. I don't blame them. And then the mom comes in, and it seems like she's trying to fall in. It's like, if they're giving speeches and they're so important, why are you falling in? You can go back up there. You know, if the daughter can come handle it, she should already be gone, to be honest. But if she had not said that we were arguing and mischaracterized the situation, she probably could have handled the situation and left and been back up there with you. So now mom's back here. And though it was very disrespectful, I really enjoyed Bryn dismissing her like, girl, we just got in trouble. We can't talk right now.
Sorry, we just got in trouble, so we can't talk. Yeah, we're not allowed. We just got in trouble. Okay. So you've been
You need to pay attention. They're speaking.
Yes.
I asked them.
So now you got to tell it off too.
You're right. You are right.
Mom's fabulous. Yes. Sorry. She's right.
I'm dying.
And she had already announced, I'm Erin's mom. Okay, Erin's mom, we can't talk. Very disrespectful, but very entertaining. I guess that's the theme of this episode. I'm seeing both sides. I did also really like a positive. I really like the fact that Jenna seemed like she was having a great time this episode. Like, even earlier in the episode where she was like trying on the outfits with her goddaughter, you could tell that's her personality. She was having fun with somebody that she's familiar with. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And then her opening up at the party to Sai and Jessel about the fact that she had broken up with her partner and the issues with that. And just like being able to be a friend. Like, if you want a friend, you have to be a friend. Is something that I always think about. So I like that she was opening up to them and wanted to have that conversation. And she just kind of felt at ease in a weird way. Like, she just kind of felt like, whatever, you know. So I like seeing that side of Jenna, and I really enjoyed it. I have no negatives really for Jenna yet, and we're on episode 6 or 5, whatever. So cool, good for Jenna. She was even making a comment about the long speeches, you know what I'm saying? So I like Jenna. I really enjoy her. Then we get just a note. So the girl whose hair caught on fire, was that not Erin's sister? Like, was that not TV Gold and Irony all in once? Like, wasn't that Erin's sister? I don't know. I didn't go back to check, but I feel like that was Erin's sister. And for the sake of my own mind's entertainment, I'm going to say that was Erin's sister, but I could be wrong. The last thing that we really get is, you know, Erin comes up to the ladies and she made it a point to say, like, don't leave, I'm about to go change. So that made me think, like, so was it running long, or was like the event about to end? Like, why do you have to tell them don't leave? You know, it's not super important, but I'm just wondering, like, what is the context here? Like, why did she have to announce don't leave, I'm about to go change? Was it about to wrap up? Was there about to be some type of finale? I know that they took a picture, so maybe it was that conversation, like, oh, I'm about to go change, then we could take a group picture, don't leave just yet type of thing. Maybe it was that. But obviously, you know, that this is what creates the conflict. Sai is like, I'm going to Nobu, I'm hungry, it's around the corner, I need to eat. And I thought the other ladies were going with her, so I kind of got confused about that, but it seems like Sai left by herself. And so Erin's upset about that, and that's what's going to open up this door for this new conflict that Erin's having. Again, being the common denominator. And I'm not saying, I hate to use the common denominator thing, because typically when I hear it, I never like it, because I feel like I don't like to lump in issues, like, because I don't want to say that, I don't want to invalidate Erin's issues with other people, because it's not like, you know, her thing with Jenna, it's not like she didn't have a reason to be upset. I don't think she had a reason to be upset with Jessel. And then her thing with Sai, it's not like she doesn't have a reason to be upset. So, but you know, it does still seem like Erin typically is the one to have issues with everyone. So now she's about to have an issue with Sai. And so, you know, and I think that there's a clip where she's going to have an issue with Uba later in the season. So, but, you know, I'm interested to see what happens with this. Sai, you know, from the preview makes it clear that she doesn't really care. I don't know that I would either. But I'm interested to see how it plays out. And, you know, Nobu does sound good. So,